"You're late," he said, not looking up from his notebook. The scratch of his pen didn't stop, even as I dropped into the seat beside him. I wiped rain from my forehead and shrugged. The bus had been 10 minutes behind schedule, and the walk from the stop hadn't been kind. My shoes were soaked through. "Traffic," I muttered, shaking my sleeve where water had seeped in. His fingers finally stilled. Dark eyes flicked up, lingering on the damp fabric clinging to my wrist. "You didn't bring an umbrella." It wasn't a question. The cafe hummed around us, steam from espresso machines, murmured conversations, the clink of spoons against porcelain. He exhaled, slow, then tore a page from his notebook and slid it toward me. "Read it," he said, "before you drown in your own incompetence." The words were sharp, but his knee bumped mine under the table. Just once. I unfolded the crumpled sheet. His handwriting was cramped, furious, ink-blotted where the rain had smudged the edges. A poem, no lines crossed out, rewritten. Arrows pointing to margins filled with questions. Asterisk your hands. Cold. The way you asterisk my throat tightened. He'd been writing about me. A waitress passed with our usual order. Black coffee for him, hot chocolate for me. He pushed the mug into my hands without a word, his fingertips brushing mine. They were warm. "Always warm. You're staring," he said. But he didn't look away either. Outside, the rain thickened, streaking the windows into liquid shadows. I realized then his notebook was dry. He'd been waiting inside. He'd chosen the table by the window, the one with the clear view of the street, of me, stumbling through the storm. The poem trembled in my grip. I traced a smudged line with my thumb. "You're stupid." Rain-slick hair and something reckless bubbled up in my chest. "You watched me," I said, louder than intended. To women at the next table glanced over. His jaw tensed. He snatched the page back, folding it smaller and smaller until it disappeared into his pocket. "It's observational," he lied, but his ears flushed red. His coffee sat untouched. Silence stretched between us, taut as the moment before a guitar string snaps. Then, under the table, his foot hooked around my ankle, holding me there. Not an accident? Never an accident with him. The waitress returned with a napkin, casting a curious glance at the tension simmering between us. I pressed it to my damp sleeve, watching as he finally lifted his coffee only to grimace. "Cold," he muttered, pushing it aside. His knee jittered against mine again, betraying him. "You rewrite things too much," I said, nodding at his pocket where the poem hid. My voice came out uneven. The first draft was better. His fingers twitched toward his notebook, then stopped. The corner of his mouth curled, just slightly. "Prove it," he challenged, low enough that only I could hear.
Outside, the storm rattled the cafe awning like it was laughing at us.
The bell above the door jingled as a group stumbled in, shaking off umbrellas and laughter. We jerked apart, but not fast enough. His chair scraped loud against the floor. Drawing glances, he cleared his throat, suddenly engrossed in rearranging his ruined poem. But the flush creeping up his neck gave him away. I wanted to press my mouth there, to taste the heat of his embarrassment. "Tell me the rest," I said, nudging the notebook with one finger. His pen hesitated midair, ink pooling. He didn't look up, but his voice, when it came, was raw. "Later. A promise, a threat. When you're not dripping all over my work." His knee found mine again, this time deliberate, lingering. The storm raged on, but the air between us had gone electric, thick with everything left unsaid. Someone dropped a spoon behind the counter, a sharp, metallic clatter, and he startled, ink splattering across the page. He cursed under his breath, but I caught the way his eyes darted to my lips when he thought I wasn't looking. I leaned in, my damp sleeve brushing his wrist. "You're blushing," I murmured. His breath hitched, fingers twitching like he wanted to reach for me right there in the crowded cafe. Outside, lightning split the sky, one fractured moment of brilliance, and in the aftershock of light, I saw it, the way his throat worked when he swallowed, the tremor in his fingers as they curled into his palm. The poem lay abandoned between us, but the real words, the dangerous ones, were written in the spaces between our breaths. "You're impossible," he hissed, but his whisper was feather-soft, his knee pressing harder against mine like an anchor. The cafe's warmth had turned stifling, his scent ink and rain and that damn mint filling my lungs until I was drunk on it. My fingers itched to tangle in his hair, to drag him closer until our foreheads touched and he had nowhere left to hide. The group by the door erupted into laughter again, and he flinched, his shoulders tensing like he expected a blow. But this time, he didn't pull away. His pinky finger hooked around mine under the table, a fleeting, secret touch that sent heat licking up my spine. "Later," he repeated, but his voice cracked on the word, and his eyes were dark with something reckless. The storm raged on, but all I could hear was the hammer of his pulse when I traced the inside of his wrist again, the way his breath stuttered when my thumb brushed the delicate skin there. The notebook was forgotten. The rain didn't matter. There was only this, the way he leaned in when he thought no one was watching, the way his lips parted like an unfinished sentence waiting to be written. A barista dropped a tray with a clatter, and he jerked back but not far. His knee stayed locked against mine, his fingers twitching like they missed the warmth of my grip. "You're going to ruin that poem," I said, nodding to the ink-blurred page. His laugh was rough, barely a sound at all, but his teeth caught his lower lip after, worrying the flesh red. The overhead lights flickered again, plunging us into momentary darkness. In the half-second before they buzzed back to life, his hand found mine in the shadows, squeezing once hard before letting go. When the light returned, his expression was schooled into something neutral, but his chest rose and fell to fast beneath his wrinkled shirt. "Shut up," he muttered, but his pen was trembling too much to write. Outside, the wind howled, rattling the cafe windows like it wanted in. I didn't care. The real storm was here, in the way his throat worked when he swallowed, in the way his gaze kept dropping to my mouth, like he was mapping the distance between us. The poem was already ruined, so why not wreck it completely? I reached for his collar, my fingers brushing the hot skin beneath. His breath hitched. The world held its breath with him. He didn't pull away. Instead, his hand shot up, catching my wrist not to stop me, but to feel my pulse rabbiting against his palm. His thumb pressed into the tender skin, finding the frantic rhythm there. "You're going to make me say it," he whispered, so low I almost missed it over the rain. His voice was wrecked, like the words had been dragged through gravel. The cafe door banged open again, bringing in a gust of wet air and laughter. We didn't move. His grip tightened, his nails biting crescents into my skin, not enough to hurt, just enough to say "I'm still here. I'm not running." His other hand fisted in his own shirt, knuckles white, like he was physically holding himself back from something worse, from something better. Lightning flashed again, illuminating the sharp angles of his face, the parted lips, the dilated pupils, the way his chest heaved like he'd been drowning this whole time. The poem was forgotten on the table, ink bleeding into the wood grain. Neither of us needed words now. The truth was in the way his fingers trembled against mine, in the way my name sounded when it tore from his throat, broken, desperate. Mine.